Sewing buttons. First you want to take the pattern and place it on the right side of your shirt. So you'll have your shirt facing up, place the pattern on top, lining up the bottom edge of your pattern. And again, you have that 1/2 inch folded of your pattern folded back because that has been your seam allowance when you sewed your facing on. And you're going to mark the buttons. So again, you're going to choose the color-coded line with the size that you cut. So I'm marking the red line, and you want to mark where the red line intersects with the black line. So that is the center line of the buttonhole. Place a pin through, take your marking tool, and give yourself one mark right where that pin is. So mark all 6 of your buttons all the way up, and then you can remove the pattern and you're ready to hand sew the buttonhole. So this pattern calls for a 1/2 inch button, and that is the measurement of the actual button. And the buttonhole is going to be 1/8 of an inch larger than your button. So if you are changing the size of your button, you may do that, but you do need to then adjust the size of your buttonhole. So here I have a 1/2 inch button, and then when we look at the other side and measure the buttonhole, that line is 5/8 of an inch. So I'll show you on the pattern. When you actually measure that black line that's drawn from top to bottom, it's 5/8 of an inch. So that's how you would adjust that if you're putting a larger button onto the shirt. All right, so you have a needle and thread, and you want the thread to be doubled up because that'll allow you to take less stitches. So I've doubled up my thread. I have about 18 inches, and I've tied a knot here at the bottom and trimmed off the excess. Place your button on the hole. Well, actually, first you can take a stitch from the underneath side right through on the mark and thread it through your the holes of your button. Now I'm going to take a pin, and before I take my first stitch, and I'm going to hold it in place with my finger, and I have a 4-hole button, so I'm going to stitch diagonally through the holes. Let me make sure I have my placement. So you hold that pin in place, and you only need to do this for the first stitch. Pull the thread through tightly, and now it'll hold that pin in place. You're going to go through the other holes, and you'll want to go through each of the holes about 4 times. Each time pulling the thread taut. So I'm doing a cross motion. That makes the stitching a little bit stronger because you're crossing the stitches. All right, now that we have those stitches in there, we can remove the pin. So that gives, what the purpose of that pin was there for is it gives us a little space so the button isn't sewn quite so tightly onto the shirt. Now I'm going to bring my needle in between the button and the shirt, and then I'm going to wrap it around the button 3 times. Then I'm going to take a small stitch, and then I can tie my knot. So what I've just done is I've created a fabric shank. A shank is when you wrap something around to stabilize or create strength. And that's what we've done. This button is sewn on very securely. So after you tie your knot, you can then clip your thread and sew on the next button.